bit of a background for me is that I grew up in a household that I was adopted. Well, my mom was adopted and my mom had 6 kids because apparently you bored really back in the day. So all the only thing to do was have kids. So I have 6 siblings. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister. And yeah, so just a little story is that I suffer from abandonment issues. So my guardian left when I was really young. And that for me, she was my support structure. She was my everything. She was basically my mom, and she left. And the reason for her leaving was because one of my family members was abusing her after everything that she had done. So she had schooled all of us. She was a principal of Pansan Junior Primary School, Pansan Senior Primary School. So we got free schooling. And she actually ultimately left because she was getting abused by one of my family members, which was really sad. I was too young to understand. So she left, and so that was the first moments of my abandonment issues. When I was staying in that house as well, I was molested by my next door neighbor, which was very difficult for me to understand as a 5-year-old kid. And I think that has still been difficult for me to unpack now and understand, but it's something that I'm still trying to do. It's definitely a very long process. So those 2 things happened when I was really young, and I was moving from house to house. So I was living with this friend, then living with that friend, because living in a rural community wasn't necessarily something that I could do because I couldn't speak Zulu. So it was very difficult for me to interact with kids in rural areas. My mom also was a domestic worker, so she didn't necessarily have money for me to travel to school and back. So I was living with a lot of friends. I eventually went to go live with my sister. I came home from school one day, and she had left black bags outside with my stuff, and she had left. So another person that was supposed to love me and care for me left me as well. So I've had a lot of abandonment issues, I think, when coming through my active addiction, from which started when I was 12 years old, all the way until 2 years ago. So I would have been 30, 29, 30.
I love the fact that you told us a little bit more about your background. I need people to know that.
Yeah.
Because that hits deep.
It does.
You know, especially as a 5-year-old child. What was the turning point when you realized you needed help? And what gave you the courage to take that step?
Would possibly be when I realized that my addiction was unmanageable. And I think that my life got out of control. And I didn't know particularly what was next, and I didn't want to find out. People often say it's either jail, institution or death, and I didn't want to go to any 3 of those places. So it was actually in a prison cell in Pansan that I was sitting in, and I stayed there for about 4 days. And on the 5th day, I just prayed to God, and at that point I wanted to change my life. So I think that was definitely the turning point for me. There were many points prior to that, but not as serious. And I think the last instance of my life where I was sitting in a jail cell, where I have previously, but like for a weekend or whatever the case may be, this was quite severe. So it was very difficult and very hard for me to accept that this is the way my direction my life was going in. So I try to think about all the outcomes of my life and where I've been and what people were proud of and who I actually am. And this definitely wasn't me. So that was definitely the turning point for me. And what gave me the courage was to be the difference in my family, because a lot of my family members suffer from addiction, and a lot of my friends suffer from addiction, and no one spoke about it, no one accepted it. And I think I wanted to be the one person, and I think that I have quite a good influence on people in my life. So I think that me being able to take this step would hopefully change other people. So that was definitely the courage part of it.
What would you say to men who are silently struggling with addiction, depression, or shame?
I think those are 3 very huge topics, especially for men. It's difficult even for me now, being in recovery and having done this journey for almost 2 years. I think it's always been very difficult for me to emotionally share what I'm feeling. I think the addiction side is a little bit easier to answer. So what would I say to someone who's suffering from addiction is that you're not alone. I think often we think, or I think, that I was alone in my addiction journey, where it really wasn't. There are like people who suffer just how I do and have gone through worse things that I have. I always try and focus on that, because we always think that, oh my word, my life is the worst, but there are definitely people out there who've gone through a lot worse. So people who are suffering with addiction, I think that just being vulnerable enough to accept that you have an issue, and then obviously stepping out and trying to find help. because there are so many people who want to help. There's so many different organizations. There's Project Exodus. There's many rehabs. There's so many places. There's church that you can get help from. So definitely, people who are suffering from addiction, I think the first step is to acknowledge that you have an addiction, and then try and find a way to help yourself with regards to that. So just reaching out to people who you love and people who care about you.
Gully, now that you're on the road to recovery, what daily practices or mindset shifts keep you strong?
Daily practices don't use. No. Yeah, I think daily practices will be just what I've learned throughout this whole recovery journey and in life in general, because I've had to definitely change who I am as an individual, and instill new patterns of thinking and new ways of living. So that's was super difficult, but once you get, it's like routine. Once you start doing something enough times, it starts becoming second nature. So that's been super helpful. But I'd say just keeping my routine is super important, and making sure you continuously speak to the people who are part of your journey and community. So that's super cool as well. And just focusing on what you're wanting to do and having your goals and ensuring that you are on the path of achieving those goals. Have hobbies. So I play paddle sometimes with work colleagues. I play football, I gym. There's so many different things that I do to obviously keep me in community with people. And obviously gym and exercise often helps individuals. Yeah, so mindset is definitely a big one. I think for me personally, I had a terrible mindset with regards to I know everything. Don't tell me what to do. All of those things, you know. So definitely having the mindset change of accepting things that are out of your control is number one, because we often try and control a lot of things in our lives, but we've got to realize what is in our control and what's not in our control. So that is definitely one of them. And then the mindset of wanting to keep your life the way it is in regards to trying to be clean or live a better life. So definitely staying motivated in those, or having the mindset to continue on that path. And then just having something that you can hold on to. So for me, it's God, and He plays a very, very vital role in my life. And that, for me, my mindset is on Him, and that gives me all the motivation and everything that I need in my life. So the mindset of having Jesus Christ in my life is definitely number one. So yeah.
What's the one piece of advice you wish someone had given you when you were battling addiction?
Oh, that's a tough one. Sean, I think it's such a broad statement to make, and I think that it's difficult because there's not like a one pinpointing thing that someone could have said that would have changed my perspective. But I think like one thing that I think I would have liked to hear in active addiction was that people cared about me, and as much as you know it subconsciously, I think that somebody telling it to you in those moments helps a lot. Because for me personally, my family hadn't been in my recovery journey, still have not been in my recovery journey in 2 years in January. And I think that for me, one of the very big parts of, I think, why I used was because I didn't have any family. I didn't have any structure. I didn't have any support from my family. I had many friends I have over 1,000 friends on Facebook. But when it came down to the issues and me being in a halfway house, then none of them were there, you know. My family wasn't there either. And that for me is probably one of the hardest things, because if anyone from my family went through what I went through or decided to change their life, I would have been so supportive in their journey. And I think that in addiction, if anyone could have told me that they cared and that they loved me enough to no matter what I did, they still love me and they'll still support me, I think that would have been a defining moment for me as well.